If you are battling clinical depression and trying to rebuild your life, standard self-help advice like just think positive or find your passion is completely useless. When you're trapped in the dark, that advice feels impossible. Most people spend years feeling stuck. And I felt stuck for many years, but I used a contrarian 3-step biblical framework to pull myself out of a psychiatric hospital, or God did. God helped me take control of my mental health, and God helped me build a media company from scratch. And now I want to share with you the 3 ways to rebuild your life with a mental illness, the Bible way. Starting with exactly what I learned from the story of Jonah in middle school, but I had to relearn in my mid-20s. Here's method 1. Trust God's protection, not your own. Step 1 is surrendering control. We have to trust that God will protect you, not that you will protect you. When I was hospitalized at Children's National for severe depression, I was angry. In middle school, I was resisting all instruction and trying to control my own destiny. But then I read the Book of Jonah. Jonah tried to protect himself by running from God. And worse, it landed him in the belly of a whale. I looked around the hospital room in middle school and realized I was in a whale. And I found myself in a whale again in February 2025 because I had stopped taking my medicine regularly. And then I had to come to the conclusion again that I had to stop fighting. And actually at a deeper level, I had to surrender more of my life and trust God's protection for my future instead of my own comfort. And I took that exact concept of surrender and applied it to business. As Christians, we know the story of the Good Samaritan, but in the corporate world, we usually separate our faith from our finances to protect our profit margins. I decided to merge them. When I started Meek Earth Studio, we built a radical business model based off of incentivized altruism. We hosted a benefit concert for Deanwood, a neighborhood called Deanwood in DC, on the east side of DC that struggles as a food desert. But instead of hoarding the profits to protect the studio, instead of that, we tied our ticket tiers directly to paying an independent artist with only 50 listeners, my mom, and feeding the homeless and single mothers who are struggling to get by. We made it totally transparent. At the point of purchase, people could either choose the base ticket, and people in the base ticket went all to the cause. We didn't take a dime from that. But then the upsell paid the artist and us in the studio. Well, it was just me at the time, in January 17th, but that was the heart behind it. We found that 7 out of 10 people, 70.37%, chose the more expensive ticket. And here's by giving up control and giving people a transparent option to support the community, over 70% of our customers willingly paid a more expensive ticket. We raised $1,890 in a single night with 54 tickets, with $3,615 in gross revenue. I paid my mom $862.50, and I got paid $862.50. So the takeaway is, don't assume your business has to operate with cold, self-protective corporate logic. Look at your product or service and ask, how does this practically love the person next to me? When you build radical generosity into the foundation of your work, your community will actively fund your growth. And then next is method 2. And this method 2 is called the Triple-Braided Cord of Obedience. Step 2 is killing the toxic solo grinder myth and believing that God will reward your obedience. Step 2 is killing this toxic solo grinder myth and believing that God will reward your obedience to wise counsel. Jonah eventually had to stop running and obey. And for me, obedience wasn't just a spiritual concept. It meant obeying my parents, taking my 80 milligrams of Prozac, and actively working with my doctors instead of fighting them. It also meant, and this is key and critical, it meant looking to older people, finding a group of older, wise professionals who can pour into you. For me, that looked like a faith-based group called the RRG, the Racial Reconciliation Group. And we have a link there's a link in the video description about them and what they do, and you can get in contact with them and to learn more about what they do in and educating people about social and racial injustice. It meant Jonah had to eventually stop running and obey. And in modern hustle culture, it tells you to build your empire in secret, grind in silence, and figure it out alone. It glorifies isolation. But Ecclesiastes clearly states that a triple-braided cord is not easily broken. While taking my medicine and trying to launch a tech startup, or a concert startup, the instinct was to hide my struggle. I was completely overwhelmed by the mechanics of the Dean World concert, worrying about delivering hundreds of pounds of food and managing different business relationships while dealing with clinical anxiety. And instead of isolating, I was isolating for a while, so I haven't posted in a while. But I decided to lean on my triple-braided cord, my parents, my doctors, and the mentors from the RRG. Doc Jones, who you can see in the Dean World concert, Tina, Will, Tony. And the takeaway is this. When Doc Jones is so helpful, because when the logistics spiked my anxiety to a breaking point, Doc Jones didn't just hand me a business spreadsheet, he grounded me spiritually, and the RRG came around me, and they helped me deliver the food. And the takeaway is you cannot build a meaningful career or rebuild a broken life in a silo. The belief that asking for help is a sign of weakness is a lie. Asking for help is a strategic necessity. Submit to the instruction of your doctors, your parents, and mentors who have survived the exact battles you are fighting right now. Oh yeah, and Meredith. Shout out to Meredith. Now, method 3, skills as tools, not trophies. Step 3 is recognizing the fruit of your obedience and aligning your next skills with God's plan. See, my obedience to take my medicine and work with my doctors is the exact reason I got out of that hospital well. That recovery allowed me to successfully host the Dean World concert, pay my mom, who played the piano beautifully for us that night, and officially build Meek Earth Studio, PBC Incorporated. But manually managing the logistics of that success, buying the food, loading trucks was incredibly stressful. It didn't scale. So I decided to fix it and also stop seeing people as tools. People are not tools, they're blessings. That's why I'm up tonight working on something for Tina for her conference and a mock-up for her conference. When your goal is to equip yourself to serve others better, the late night work suddenly has a profound, undeniable meaning. Now, rebuilding your life isn't about perfection, it is about obedience and trusting God's process. If you want to see exactly what it looks like when a community uses art to love their neighbor, and you want to see the growth of this company, sign up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and when you sign up for that free track, you'll also be on the wait list for the next concert. And so subscribe to follow this journey, and let's see what happens when we build this together.